Welcome everyone to our level 1 contemplative pillar of the Ni lineage Taoist tradition. I'm still letting people into the meeting as I chat, so forgive me if you see that movement. It's just how we open the meeting to others. So I'm really excited to share this pillar with you. It's really pertinent to our mental clarity, which I don't know if it's ever been more important than now to have that mental clarity. This type of meditation was originally called Chan, and it's still called Chan in the Taoist tradition in the Chinese language. There are different records of its origin. Some say that it shows up anthropologically in the 6th century Common Era, but others say it goes back much further to around 1500 before Common Era. So this is a very ancient practice that found its way to South Vietnam, where it was known as Tien. It found its way to Korea, where it was called, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Suan. And then it found its way to Japan, where it is known still as Zen. And Zen meditation is very popular still. It's a very beautiful tradition that also merged with the Buddhist tradition. And then it came here to the United States fairly recently through a Vietnamese monk called Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a very beautiful teacher. And his teachings were embraced by the psychological community of the West. And then the name changed again to mindfulness. So mindfulness is the word that we hear so much. And it's essentially the teachings of Zen, of Swan, of Tien, of Chan, extracted from any kind of religious context and presented in a very almost clinical way. And the benefit to this is that now we have a lot of scientific studies telling us kind of beyond the spiritual benefits of these kinds of practices, telling us what it does for our brains. So a lot of neurodegenerative issues, like Alzheimer's, for example, are diagnosed because you see the gray matter eroding in the brain. And so with this type of meditation, what studies have found, and they'll actually do MRIs, is that gray matter increases when you practice. And what's really fascinating about this is that the gray matter increases when you practice, but in order to practice, you have to do almost nothing. Some people say that this kind of practice is like stopping your thinking without falling asleep. So when you're practicing, you might feel like you're not doing anything, but you're actually doing a great deal for your physical well-being, your mental well-being. And this is scientifically documented. Now, spiritually, we know that this kind of practice is really helpful in a multitude of ways, including increasing our mental clarity and also creativity, and also kind of deepening our spiritual awareness. So I won't play the gong via Zoom because I've had so many challenges with it, but I will include it in the recording of our meditation today. And when you listen to the gongs, a practice that you can bring in is to listen not only to the sound, but to also listen to the silence that is giving shape to the sound. So without the silences, even now, as I'm speaking, my sounds would not be comprehensible. This silent is giving shape and meaning. But so often in our busy, loud lives, we focus only on the sound and we forget how important that quiet aspect of life is. So your life work this month is to give focus not only to the stress, the emergencies, but also to the quiet, to the peaceful, to the small parts of life that are so easy to overlook. Also, for your altar practice, so we have talked about the gong representing the oneness of all that is. We've talked about bringing 2 candles to your altar, either in red or hot yellow. And these help us to remember to seek clarity and also to be conscious of where we give our focus. And so this month, I would encourage you to find an inspiring image for your altar. This can be anything that inspires you. Some people have a book from the Ni Taoist kind of canon of literature, a book that inspires them, or some people might have an image of their teacher, or you might have an image of really whatever resonates with you, a tree, something that just you see it and you have that feeling of, oh yes, I remember why I'm meditating. I remember why I'm practicing. It gives you that inspiration. And this is really connected to the contemplative practice, because part of stopping thinking without falling asleep is coming into that space of just wow, feeling inspired, awake, alive, but quiet at the same time. So before I close my little opening remarks, there are a few modern teachers that exist that are carrying on this tradition. So Eckhart Tolle, who wrote The Power of Now, is someone that you can explore. He's not affiliated with any lineage. He's a modern mystic, but wonderful teachings. And also Byron Katie. Byron Katie has this whole incredible, she's a modern teacher, incredible practice of asking questions to thoughts as they arise. Is it true? How do I know? Can I let it go? And when? And this is her whole teaching. So these are some modern manifestations. And what you have the privilege to experience today is really the root. We are in the roots of this incredibly powerful yet simple practice of contemplation. And we're really fortunate to have you, Dr. Mao, guiding us as a living teacher of this ancient practice. That is such a rare combination. And it's really thanks to your family, Dr. Mao, to the Ni lineage, that we have this unbroken, continuous life force in contemplative practice. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Mao, and guiding us today.
Well, thank you, Olivia, for that wonderful opening and the historical background and how this unique approach to meditation evolved from. So appreciate that very much. And I think it's very helpful for people to put it into a context in that way. There are many different techniques and, in meditation, particularly in the Taoist tradition. And so it's always nice to kind of see the evolution as the teaching gets kind of spread and adopted and then innovated, hopefully, and transmitted. So, but it is a different type of meditation for sure, because so often as we are meditating, you have experienced visualization, you have experienced symbiosis with nature, you have these techniques so far that are imagery based, that are viscerally based. And so now we're coming into this meditation that utilizes words and as a way of communicating with your spirit. And so, before we jump in, we have to kind of just sort of take a survey of the understanding of our consciousness and where that evolves from. Because obviously, as we are quote unquote thinking and contemplating, we are actually going deep into the um, layers of consciousness. So it's no longer just your brain working, it's no longer just in the mind, but rather the question is posed deep to your spirit. Now, the spirit there's two types of spirits. Well, there are many spirits in your body for that matter, but the two that we're concerned about for this practice is one, the conscious spirit, the Shen. We call that Shen, and resides in the heart, and it manifests during daytime. And at night, that Shen goes back into the heart, close the door, goes to rest. And then at nighttime, when the Shen is resting, the Hun, loosely translated as soul. So spirit and soul, the difference between the two is that the soul is active at night when your conscious mind is shut down. And so, and the soul is then processing and listening and alerting you through dreams and imageries and so forth. As during daytime, when we're awake, we are using words to communicate through our Shen, our conscious spirit, in these contemplative process. But don't be surprised in this month of practice when you may be dreaming or having these experiences at night when you're sleeping that may speak to you in response to your contemplation. And that's okay. That's very good, in fact, because then we can establish this way of reaching the soul. So the contemplation practices is a way to to really pose that question deep within your subconscious and the unconscious. And so it's just equally as important as your conscious. So, and anyway, so that's a little background about the meditation. Okay, we'll be posing questions, and these questions will beget answers. Now, typically, your mind will begin to answer these questions, and it's almost like layers of onions. So the first layer will peel off, and that will give you a certain set of answers. And then the second layer will come off as, the query will get deeper and you'll have more answers. And you just keep peeling and keep going deeper until such a point where you may run out of things to answer, which is okay too. Because if you sit with it patiently, things will bubble up from the depth. And little by little, it becomes more, going from the superficial to the deep. And you never know what may surface. And now Olivia brought up in the last class for level 2 about trauma, because sometimes these stored memories may come up. And if they do come up, so not to become consumed by them in any way whatsoever, or become excited by them in any way, but rather just when you're finished with meditations is write them down, whenever they come up, and the feelings, the corresponding feelings that may have accompanied the visual, and then burn it. And as you're burning it, repeat the following words: I now forever release this memory and feelings from my being and my life forever. And so this is a way to just process what comes up. But anyway, there will be layers for sure, and we are very good at just packing things in. So typically this practice, which is called Wu Dao. Wu means realization, and Dao means, of course, Dao, which can be translated many, many, many ways. And so typically it's done as a dyad, meaning with another person. One person posed a question and the other person then answers the question. And the person asking the question maintains a safe space for the person to express with no judgment in any way whatsoever, just keeping that space safe. And then every 5 minutes or so, the role is reversed. And so the person originally posing the question is now answering the same question. So this goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And sometimes there'll be laughter, crying fits, and whatever may be that come up. It's all good. It's none of it is, bad or things that you need to get excited about. It's just a process. That's all. And so when you finally do reach that deep state of being, and where the answer is sort of funny, right? Because when you do go through this contemplative process, sometimes there is a sudden enlightenment or realization when you suddenly go, aha. I mean, that's it. It's so basic, and it's been staring at you in the face the whole time, but you somehow didn't see it or avoiding it. So that can happen. I'm not saying that, that it's going to happen to everyone. It's going to happen to every question. You're going to have that sudden realization, but when you do, you will know it. And so our process isn't so much looking for the ultimate answer, but rather that you become familiar with this technique of query, a self-query, contemplative query. Okay. All right. So I think is there any questions before we jump in?
Dr. Ma, I had the thought, especially for first-time meditators, that it might be worth kind of exploring that in the silence can be somewhat difficult to navigate when you're first meditating. I think in our culture and our times, we're so used to being busy all the time. And so when we create that space, that quiet, it can be surprising what comes up. I was at a retreat that was a silent meditation retreat, and all of a sudden I just started weeping. And it was helpful for me, so I'm sharing this with our group, that when these deeply buried emotions come up, to notice them and to allow them to come up, but to really prioritize peace and prioritize letting go. So I feel like it's a common human impulse to attach a story, to get into the story behind the emotion. But sometimes it's just emotion, and you don't have to necessarily figure out anything about it, but rather just allow it to come up and let it go. Kind of like sometimes it's like our hearts are like a bird cage, and we can, in the emotions or birds, we can fill up this cage. And these emotions want to be free and to lighten up our hearts. So really, I guess my feeling, I don't know if this is consistent with the Taoist tradition, it's really just my human experience. So maybe you can let me know, Dr. Ma, but it feels appropriate to really open the doors and let this stuff go, as opposed to holding on to it and analyzing it and, trying to figure it all out.
Oh yeah, that's very good. I'm glad you share that experience. In fact, is precisely what we want you to do, is to be an observer, spectator, and be somewhat detached as things come up. No, we don't want you to be suppressed. We don't want you to analyze. We don't want you to do any judgment whatsoever. It's just what comes up, and that's all. That's what contemplation's about, is what comes up, and not to not to discourage, because as soon as you judge it, it will become you will discourage the next thought that may come up because of this fear of being judged. So excellent, excellent. All right. Well, then I think we should begin. And so I will ask Olivia to guide our first portion to get us ready to the natural meditation. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you, Dr. Mao. So find your meditation posture. Allow your spine to be long like a river, your body unencumbered. Notice if you're holding tension anywhere, and consciously practice letting go, softening. Allow your breath to be deep and full, and also effortless, natural. Just breathing and allowing your body to relax. Bring your awareness to your lower dantian, your belly area. Just listening, notice what you sense, what you feel in your lower dantian. Bring your awareness to your middle dantian, your heart area. Just listening, sensing, tuning in. Notice what you feel in your heart area, your middle dantian. And bring your awareness to your upper dantian, your head area. Just listening, notice what you feel, what you sense in your upper dantian. Your physical eyes are closed or partially closed. As you open your spiritual eye, Tianmu, your heavenly eye, between your eyebrows, opening to the light of the North Star. This perfectly balanced, bright white, benevolent light is always present, reaching to you, to humanity. Simply open to allow this light to flow into your heavenly eye, filling your upper dantian, clearing away heaviness, stagnant energy, tension, melting away anything that isn't love, calm, peace. This light flows with an infinite cascade. Allow it to flow into your middle dantian, your heart area, filling your heart, softening your heart, opening your heart. It naturally flows into your upper back, your chest. This light flows into your arms, your hands, your fingertips. Allow this light of the North Star to flow into your lower dantian, your belly area, filling this energy center, naturally overflowing into your lower back, your hips, your legs and feet. Just breathing, just allowing this light to flow, to circulate in your being, letting go of everything else. Take a few breaths to just sense, to feel this light, to sense this letting go, this calm, as we enter into natural meditation, watching thought as it arises and practicing keeping the windows of your mind open, letting go, allowing this simple moment to be enough, allowing yourself to be complete as you are. Just breathing, existing as a being of light, a light body.
So now I would like you to just focus on the word calm. What does calm mean to you? How does it sound? What does it evoke from within you? What does calm mean? As you let go of your thoughts, as you let go of worries, all the to-do list, the desires, the hunger, the needs, the wants, letting go of anything that is tugging at you or has a hold on you. And in your current state of calmness, where you are here and you are now present, nowhere else, none of these things that are tugging at you has any power over you, because you are here in this calm state of being and existence. You are your breath. You are your being. And by creating this calm space, you can open the doors to your mind's eye, to the heart, and pose the questions that we're about to start contemplating to your Shen, your conscious spirit, as well as to your Hun, your unconscious soul. The question to contemplate now is, who am I? Let your mind focus on this simple and yet profound question of who am I? Perhaps you may start by answering simple facts about yourself, your name, your age, your gender, your look, your personality, your abilities, whatever those are, just go ahead and allow them to come up and clear out. And then ask the question again, who am I? Go ahead and do so. It is important that as you contemplate through this process, that you hold no judgment whatsoever in whatever answers that may emerge. There's no judgment, but only acceptance of what it is. Therefore, there is no struggle and just pure acknowledgement. Who am I? Once the lower hanging fruit of the answers are gone, you continue to probe deeper through this process of contemplation and introspection, as if you are peeling the layers of onions about you. Who am I? You dissolve all the obvious external attributes, and as you peel off the layers, it may begin to reveal your true self and your true nature. Who am I? And with the process, you may get a glimmer of your true nature, or it might take longer, which is perfectly fine. The nature of contemplative meditation is not a race. It is not goal driven. It is just beingness, allowing what is there to emerge, like from the depth of the pond or the sea. If you allow it, everything will surface. Who am I? Let the question permeate and echo through the chambers of your soul. And sometimes the answers that emerge may be unexpected, but again, hold no judgment. Pure acceptance and acknowledgement of what emerges. Now we further our contemplative practice by moving on to the next question. Why am I here? The process of contemplation is while you're focused on the question, you also must remain relaxed and at ease as the answers emerge from within. You're not so intensely trying to force any thoughts from coming. If there is an absence of thought for a moment, then just be in that moment and watch. Thoughts, answers, energy emerges when they are ready. So allow the natural process of contemplation to unfold. Occasionally you get a glimmer, and occasionally you get a thunderous answer. Neither one is better than the other because it is the process of flow. Just allow the process to unfold. Why am I here? Why am I here? Is there a purpose to my life? There are 7 billion people on planet Earth. Does everyone have a purpose? What is my purpose? Why am I here? Sometimes what comes up may not even be related to your query, which is okay. You just continue to peel back layers and layers of onion until you reach the core or the kernel of your true nature. Remember, no judgment. Why am I here? If there is a purpose to my life, then what is the purpose of my life? What is the purpose of my life? There are no regrets from the past. There are no excitement about the future. We're here to get clarity. And if there is a purpose of my life, then what is that purpose of my life? Holding the space, allow your inner spirit, your Shen, to provide you with the answers as they emerge. Sometimes the answers do not come in words, but rather in imagery. The most precious resource in this lifetime is time. What is the purpose of my life? That I should employ the time available to live that purpose. And now we move on to the next question. What is heavenly will? What is heavenly will? Does heaven have a will? And what is that will? Is heavenly will the laws of the universe? And this universal law is so subtle that is operating in every moment of our waking and sleeping hour of our lives. It's subtle because it is not easily detectable, and yet it is omnipresent and all around. Just as fish is not aware of the water that exists within, sometimes we may not be conscious and aware of the web of energy of the universe that we live within. And the law, the universal law that is subtle and yet governs all. This divine universe that gave us life and life of everything else have a will, heavenly will. What is the heavenly will? What is my will? What is my will? Is my will simply made up of desires, wants, needs? Where is my will coming from? Why do I have the willpower in certain areas of my life and yet lacking in another? What is my will? And have I respected and listened to my will in my life? Or have I abused and violated my will? What is my will? Is my will simply to just live for the 100 years and then perish? Or is my will something greater than just this life? And is my will aligned with the heavenly will? Or is my will in opposition or contrary to that of the heavenly will? When my will is aligned with the universal will or the heavenly will, I shall thrive and realize the truth of the universe. When I am in opposition, when my will is oppositional to the heavenly will, I may find myself in danger and compromise in my life. So, what is my will and what is the heavenly will? And is my will aligned with the heavenly will? When my will is aligned with the heavenly will, my life shall be peaceful, contented, and healthy. If my will violates the heavenly will, the consequences may not be so positive. So is my will aligned with the heavenly will? And now we are going to conclude our contemplative practice. Obviously, when you're doing the contemplative practice, you can do it much longer. You can focus on one question longer. Now, bring your awareness to the upper dantian of your forehead. Sometimes helpful to take a deep breath and pull that breath in from the forehead and exhale. And then breathe into your middle dantian, inhaling and exhale so that you become fully gathered back to your chest, the heart center. And inhale once again and gather your energy and focus in the lower dantian below the belly button. And then exhale, letting go. And now we rub our hands together, cup them over your eyes to allow the heat and the energy from your hands to penetrate your eyes, enlivening them. All right, so we wake up and get back to our world here. All right, this concludes the contemplative meditation practice. Back to you, Olivia.
Thank you, Dr. Mao. So thank you everyone for coming together to practice today. There's a lot of spiritual momentum that is gained by being together, even though we're in this other dimension of cyberspace. So thank you very much, Dr. Mao, for this beautiful practice. And I love that, in years gone by, the College of Tao, Samuel and I were talking about the retreat. There have been Wu Dao retreats where this is practiced for several days, uninterrupted. And now we have the opportunity to practice for a month. So I hope you enjoy sinking into this deep exploration of life, of awareness. These are such important questions. I'll have all of our media in our library shortly for our daily practice. Any closing words for us, Dr. Mao?
Well, as you contemplate, the world events may come up, because obviously if you tune into the news, there's so many things that may affect you negatively. And so as these come up, you can't help but have feelings and attach feelings to them. And it's okay. I'm not saying that, you shouldn't, but ultimately what we want to do is get to that place of pure objectivity. Because if you try to understand why bad things happen, you may end up chasing your tail, because ultimately, as humans, why do people behave so contrary to what we would do ourselves? Well, there's no question there's a lot of imbalance in the world. And so our work is to make sure that we ourselves are balanced, so that we can have this influence and the ripple effect out to the people around us, in our community, and out to the rest of the world. And so by working on ourselves and evolving ourselves, our hope is that we can help the greater world come to its senses. And so it's even more important that we do our work so that we can be of service to the world. So thank you all for tuning in, taking the time, and doing your practice this month. We look forward to see you next time.
Thank you, Dr. Mao. Feel free to unmute yourself, everyone, if you'd like to say goodbye or au revoir.
Merci, Olivia. Thank you, Dr. Mao.
Merci. Je vous en prie.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Mao. Thank you, Olivia.